On a related note, subjectively offensive or controversial rhetoric is on the back foot. But what does that mean for the state of public discourse in today's world? And how did we get here? Journalist, filmmaker, and director of the new documentary Blasphemy, Martin Himel, joins me to discuss. Martin, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you.
Well, sure.
All right, now I have to ask, first of all, how did we get to where we are in terms of the level of public discourse or the lack thereof?
Well, I think it's a direct function of the very combative atmosphere that exists in politics today. If you look especially in American politics, there's a tremendous combative atmosphere between Republicans and Democrats, between right and left. And that combative atmosphere has led to a real retrenchment. And therefore, you see right-wing fascist elements and left-wing Bolshevist sort of elements talking these days. And neither are any very tolerant of the other.
Well, and today we're seeing, a manifestation of this commonly referred to as cancel culture. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, basically in our documentary, we explore cancel culture is almost like a blasphemy. Why a blasphemy? I mean, it's not religion, but in religion there are certain basic tenets, there are certain basic rules. For instance, in the medieval ages, Copernicus was burned at the stake for saying that the world went around the sun. Galileo spent 20 years in prison in his home because he advocated something similar to that. Yet he discovered the moons around Jupiter. And today what we have in social life is we see a sort of a blasphemy as well. So for example, in many LGBTQ movements, especially when it comes to transsexuals, etc., there are certain words that you can't go over anymore. For instance, if you took very famous lesbian activists like Martina Navratilova in the 70s suffered terribly for what she did. She was a tennis champion fighting for women's rights. Now she says that transgenders who go from male to female have an unfair advantage in sports. That's blasphemy. You say that, that's considered hate speech. That's like equivalent to saying the Holocaust didn't happen or something like that. And she therefore is being canceled for something like that. So there's many examples of that as well. For instance, in Me Too, if the Me Too movement, if a woman particularly says that she's been sexually assaulted, and she might very well have been sexually assaulted, it's not an issue if the issue is that you must accept the stance immediately. It can't be questioned in any way, shape, or form. If you do not accept it immediately, then basically if you're male, you're a misogynist, or you hate women, or you're not for women's rights. And many people have been canceled. They've been shut out of social media. They've been shut out of Twitter. They've been
social pariahs in many cases.
Basically, yes, and they've been shut out of the world around them.
So, how is this affecting politics, especially, again, within the context of the 2020 election in the United States?
Well, basically, you're not allowed to express your opinion. If you express it, it can have tremendous implications. Both ways, by the way. Sure. You can have it both ways. If you're in New York and you say, well, Donald Trump might be not exactly the man I want, but he's got some positive aspects when it came to the economy or something like that, you could be crucified for that. You could be attacked for that. Similarly, if you're coming from a place like Miami and you go to the Latino area and say, well, I think that Donald Trump is a right-wing lunatic and I will not take him, you could be attacked there as well because that means you're pro-Castro.
Wow. It seems to me that there's just this degradation of the gray area, of nuance, of the understanding that people and things are not monolithic.
Precisely. Yeah, well, truth is gray. Truth is contradictory. There's no such thing as clear-cut truth. When people see the truth as clear-cut, that's a form of dogma. That's a tenet. That's a form of, that's also saying that if you do not adhere completely to that clear-cut dogmatic truth, then you're a blasphemer, then you're a traitor, then maybe you're a criminal. And that's the danger point that we're seeing, especially in the United States.
All right, well, I sincerely hope that we find some way to address this effectively in the very near future. Martin, thank you very much for being with us today.